Hello, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today, I want to wrap up a commission. It's a sketch. Of course, everything's going to fly apart as I lift it up. It's a sketch from a photograph of a building that now no longer exists. And the person requesting it asked that I sketch it, and then I discussed potential washing of just some colors over it, and that's what I'm going to do now. So first, I have this other one that I'm working on, which this isn't the final draft. It was me kind of just playing around and getting things in place. And first, I want to do some washes over that, just so I can get an idea for what pure colors I want to use. For example, here I am taking some ultramarine. Thinking that an ultramarine or kind of a cerulean or a cobalt blue will be my go-to for the sky. Then from here, grass-wise, I do have some sap green. I could take the lemon yellow and mix that with the blue. And let's just see what greens we get there. That might be the type of wash I would want for the grass. Then the trees themselves, in the background, let's mix a stronger mix of that. Why are we moving away from, there we go. Maybe a slight variation wash within those colors. Then last but not least, I think I just want to kind of tint the building itself. And I think I'll go in the direction of Rick S. with burnt umber, ultramarine to mix my dark wash for the building, and maybe just vary that as I go around from warm to cool. All right, I think that is my idea. Here, just with this one, I think I used the same ink. You can see that it's not gonna bleed. I believe I used the, what was it? I'm drawing a blank. The platinum carbon ink. So I usually either use platinum carbon ink, Micron pens, or the India ink, Speedball India ink. All right, so that gives me an idea of what I want to do color-wise, and I think that'll be nice and fun. I'm going to use paper towel to really keep my palette clean, mainly because I really don't want to get any dirty colors with it. So it's really just the exact opposite of the way that I paint. So let's grab a little ultramarine. I'm using a slightly bigger mop. I think this is the Paul Rubens. I got it off of Amazon a while back. Now this paper is the Arches, not the Arches, Stonehenge Hot Press Aqua. I don't want to go to the edges for two reasons. One, I kind of want to give it a vignette type feel. The other is that I kind of abhor painting with the tape, mainly because some of the paint for me kind of inevitably creeps underneath it. Then from there, I do have a little bit of issues with the buckling, and that it won't want to flatten out in those areas whenever I have tape present. So those are just some of my reasons. Now let's go some yellow into this. I'm jumping down to the grass. Now there is a street in front. And in the original picture, and the original painting, drawing, I put up in the Patreon. So if you guys want to follow along and try it out and see the original, you can do that as well. But the original had a car right here, which I had to figure out how to omit. I think I'm going to just bring the grass here. I'm never going to worry about the road. It's more just kind of illustrative, playing with the ideas. I have done some house portraits and business portraits purely painted in watercolor, and I have enjoyed those. But that was definitely a different approach to the painting process whenever I did it from a watercolor standpoint. So this is more of kind of a pen and ink, pen and wash viewpoint. Bring that down. I did bring a little tree on the edge, so that does get a little paint there. And I think with this approach and technique, it's perfectly fine to leave areas white. Okay. Let's see. So I'm using the Paul Rubens, but the Silver Black Velvet small jumbo round is what I believe Rick S. uses, but with his buildings, but his are more painterly. All right, now let's go for a light mix of burnt sienna and ultramarine. Now this side, the side of the building facing us, the planes that are generally in our direction, are in shadow. Now I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it may be better to darken these tones first, so then we can then see how the lighter one looks in relation to it. The lighter side being here, here, and here. Shadow, 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 shadow. This part of the roof is kind of a more tin roof. If we make it a little bit warmer, a little bit more raw sienna, and then come back with a darker tone, but a little bit more ultramarine on this side to show that change. This side's in shadow too. So you see how I used the pen and ink to create that, and then variation in tone to create that as well. This underneath the overhang is even darker. Let's increase our concentration there. Even the porch. And honestly, looking at it from the idea of warm and cool, this side's a little bit warm too in the shadow. And just feed in a little variation because I think some areas are still a little damp, so I can some dry brush. Now we do have some young children sitting right there. I think what would be fun, if I grab something that'll just really stand out. Some light red oxide. Here's some ultramarine blue. I think that's good enough to give the impression of people. I'm grabbing a thinner mop to now go into these darker spots. I feel like I have too much moisture on the brush, so I could just use the paper towel. Slight shadow right there. The front of this. I think this is something we could really, play around with, and it's totally a viable method of painting and drawing, just combining the two. You can look into the dip pens, but you want to see what dip pen is going to work well on the paper and kind of not catch. I think that's where a hot press would probably really shine, where you really want that smoother surface. I may have used some of the repeatographs, repeatometrics. Those are the technical pens that you can refill, so that's another option. And if that's a path that you want me to go down more with these videos and explore, just let me know. You know, like, I genuinely enjoy filming, if you can tell by now, and experimenting with all these different techniques and approaches. And then it really makes my day when somebody tags me in social media and that they followed along, or that they comment that they were inspired by something. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get a chance to really respond to all the posts, comments, and I need to really get around to doing that. But yeah, just bringing that shadow down. Let's see, let's just hit it with a blow dryer and see if we want to stop it at this point. I'm going to pause the camera. All right, so I'm really pleased with this approach. With general kind of just sketching and just a slight concentration on linear perspective, we can do a fairly easy, sketchy rendering of a building. With the watercolor on top of that, on top of the waterproof, water-resistant inks, it works really well. It's been, I want to say it's been about two weeks since this was drawn, so that's why I'm not sure if there's like a time frame, but I have done drawings in the past where I painted on later on that day and I didn't have issues. Now with the tape, I kind of want to continue the video. So with this, I put the tape on my pants before I put it on to the paper to kind of help remove some of the tackiness. Now it is pulling up some of the paper, and that's just something that I'm gonna have to just be careful. If you are gonna pull, you pull away, because if it does pull up the paper and you pull towards, you're gonna tear up into the work of art. Now, unfortunately, this is pulling up quite a bit, so I probably didn't remove enough tact. Also, sometimes pressing it down and the probably just sitting on it for a little while could cause that as well. Like it physically being there for 2 weeks, the tape. But I had put that there to create a little border. I always prefer to do that whenever I am working on something like this. I think that that border makes it look nice. The tear, not so much. So I'm a little bummed about that, but I don't think it's like too much of an issue. See, this one's pulling a lot easier with it, so I probably had put this on last and pressed less. I wouldn't be surprised if hitting it with the blow dryer would help the tape pull up as well and cause less of a tearing of the paper. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But I'm sure there's tons of tricks out there. Like one thing that was recommended to me was frog tape, but I've been dumping the art money into a lot of other supplies, mediums, and papers, so that just hasn't been on the top of my list. Also, okay, so taping, it creates a nice edge, especially where I was drawing. I did tape a little on the inside of a 11 by 14 matte opening. That also kind of gives it like kind of a double matte effect, but it also gives me an area to write my name and the title of it. I haven't figured out the title of it, mainly because this shop no longer exists. It's the woman's grandmother's or great-grandmother's shop, and it was kind of a general store, and back then they just had a whole bunch, not a whole bunch, but they had just general stores with like just no names. You would just go to the corner store, I guess. So I usually want to put a title on it. I'm not sure what to title it because I want to title it I might just say like grandma's store or something like that, or a mom and pop shop. But let me pull that there. And if we have time, which we will, because I'm going to sign it now, we can put a mat over it just to get a general idea of the placement of everything. I put this on the floor. So you can see how that would sit within a mat. I know that I'm going to crop the video, so you're probably not going to be able to see the whole thing. But I'm going to write that title down here so I have plenty of room. All right, so on that note, I'm going to stop the video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you'd like to see more of these, and I'll talk to you all soon. Also, I'll have the downloads on Patreon, so go check that out. And thank you to everybody that supports me on the Patreon. I really appreciate it. You'll have a great day. Bye.